Hey, this is Mike from Cancer Bats, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews. This is the final interview of 2022. Oh, and this is episode 106 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews. And today's guest, we're talking to Mike Peters. Mike Peters is the drummer for the band Cancer Bats, a kind of a hardcore punk band from Toronto, Canada. Today we're going to be talking to him about what got him into playing drums, as well as like the history of Cancer Bats. And so without further ado, let's go talk to Mike. So what's up, guys? I'm here with Mike from the almighty Cancer Bats. So how are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing good. Yeah, just it's early, so just getting my day started here. But
Hey, say,
got a cup of coffee.
same. I just had some breakfast a moment ago, and now we're ready to do an interview. Feel a great way to wrap up the year with interviews.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically, this kind of
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So basically, this kind of format is I want to do like a rundown of the Cancer Bats catalog, as well as like your journey as an artist from where you started to now. But I'm always curious before we go into that, or like the
Okay.
first bands that got you into like rock and metal, what made you want to start playing drums?
Um, so I grew up. Well, I mean, I think early on listening to like my dad's small record collection. I grew up in a pretty religious household. So he had a lot of weird like Christian folk kind of music from the 70s that he was into. But he did have a Doors tape and a CCR record, and he had the Beatles, Sergeant Pepper. He had the greatest hit, CCR greatest hits, and the Beatles, and I just remember listening to those albums a lot. It was obviously drawn to the darker side of my dad's musical palette. Um, and then, getting a little bit older, like I'd say, like I started playing drums around 11 when I was 11. And, and then kind of, I started getting into it and that was like grade 6, grade 7. And then I started getting into, Green Day Dookie was massive when I was in grade 7. Um, and I think that album kind of turned me on to punk. Um, and then I got into some like MXPX and some of the other Christian kind of punk stuff that my parents would actually like take me to the store and buy for me. And then yeah, from there just kind of spiraled into metal and you know
Awesome.
Metallica and Iron Maiden and you
Nice.
know and then I remember getting um my friend's brother uh had a death he had death symbolic,
Ooh, that's a fucking classic,
uh
man.
and that like it's an incredible record, but that blew my mind when I was young, and I was just like, holy shit, this is crazy.
All right. And were you in any
um
bands before Cancer
is
Bats, or
that
was
beat?
yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, I was in a band called Figure Four, um um with like two of the guys from Comeback Kid were in that band.
Oh wow.
um Figure Four, we like, so Andrew, who sings in Comeback Kid, it was actually his brother who had the death symbolic album.
Oh shit, that's
um
awesome.
yeah, his brother Joel. So and I remember, yeah, but anyway, yeah, so Andrew and I, the singer from Comeback Kid, we grew up like a block away from each other. Our parents still live a block away from each other. And So him and I had this band called Figure Four, um, that we started. Well, we both kind of joined. There were some older guys that had started it, and we joined when we were like 16 years old. And then, like straight out of high school, we were touring in the States, and we went to South America. We went to toured in Brazil. We toured in Europe. But yeah, we were him and I were both pretty hungry for it right out the gate.
Wow.
As soon as we soon as I have a card that I gave my mom when I was 13 that was like, I hope it was a Mother's Day card that said something like, I hope you still love me when I get a whole bunch of tattoos and start playing drums in a metal band. And so I guess I kind of knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um, but so we got it going. Andrew and I got going pretty early. Like, and figure four is still. I mean, I don't play with them anymore. They had a second drummer, but yeah. So Steve still plays, but they played Furnace Fest, I think, this year,
Yeah, I
or
was
this
actually
past year,
there.
2022.
Yeah, I was there front row
Yeah,
for Comeback
wicked.
Kid. That was a great show.
Yeah, wicked. Well, figure four also played. Comeback Kid and figure four both played.
Oh
So,
wow. Wow, that's awesome. So how
um,
did you end up
yeah,
yeah, so how did you end up starting up Cancer Bats? Because I believe they formed in 2004.
yeah, 2004. Yeah, so Liam and Scott started the band in 2004, and I met them that summer when they were just starting to get the band going. Liam's also a drummer, um, so they were just writing songs with the two of them, and they lived in Toronto, and I lived in Winnipeg. Um, so I met them, we hung out, we hit it off. I went home, and then they got a guy to play drums. Is that beeping? Is that dinging from my iMessage coming through on your end too?
No, no, you're good.
Okay, good. I can deal with it. I just don't want it to wreck the podcast.
No, no, you're fine, man.
Um, cool. Um, see if I can exit it actually. Anyway, so we started that band, or Liam and Scott started the band in 2004 with another drummer, and then I joined in the summer of 2005.
All
Um,
right.
so they had made a demo with another guy, and then when I joined in 2005, we started prepping to make the first record, and then
Which was
that
the
came out in
EP?
2006.
Oh yeah, I was talking about like was
Well,
the EP before?
the EP was before, yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
the four song that was with the old drummer, and then I played on Birthing the Giant was the first thing I played on.
Yeah, and what was like the thought process making the debut Cancer Bats album?
Mm, I think it was just mostly um, we just wanted to make an album. We were when I talked to them about coming on to play drums, they had already signed to Distort Records in Canada, which was home to Alexis on Fire. I think they were probably the biggest band at the time, or probably were ever the biggest band on that label. But and so it was exciting because there was like this big label with money, and they wanted to really push the band, so it was exciting. So we just we were rehearsing every day. Like it was like, Mike moved to Toronto, we're just doing the band, so we just work when we could to make enough money to live, but it was like where you lived, what you did outside the practice room was like very unimportant. So
Yeah, and it's
yeah,
still a it's a great debut. I remember like Golden Tanks, just a hell of a way to start it off. And I also like the song Grenades, which also kind of reminds me a little bit of like Metallica a bit,
yeah,
but faster with screaming. And everything is just great in the song. And just like the way the guitar sounds and the riffs and the chords just plays perfectly. And I love how your drumming, it just does really well in this song.
cool, thank you.
Yeah, and I also like
Yeah,
Pneumonia
I guess
Hot.
we're
Yeah, sorry, you were saying.
yeah. Well, no, I was just thinking of I've been kind of thinking it's like coming up. It's actually kind of not that soon, but in 3 years it's going to be 20 years old. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll
Yeah,
have to learn how to play all those songs and do some special shows or something.
I would be there. And I also like the song Monia Hawk, you better get like Alexis on Fire and get George to do it on stage with y'all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
We just played in Toronto, um, uh, like a couple weeks ago, and George's other band, Dead Tired, played, and he came out and sang the song with us.
yeah.
It was awesome.
How'd you end up hooking up with him to do that song?
Um, Liam and Scott have been friends with the Alexis guys, prior to Alexis on Fire. Like we all kind of grew. Well, I didn't grow up because I was in Winnipeg, but Liam and Scott kind of grew up with those guys in the Southern Ontario hardcore metal scene. You know,
Yeah. And then
so
your second album, Hail Destroyer. Usually with the debut album, you usually have your entire life to write it, and there's a lot of like hype that goes with the first album. Did you feel like pressure, sure, following up, but birthing the giant going into Hail Destroyer?
yeah, I think I I don't remember feeling a lot of pressure. I think it was more like we still had that fire. We were hungry for it, and we just wanted to be on the road, and we wanted to make another killer record. So, um, with birthing the giant, we would we would work through the day and then go jam at night, and work through the day and go jam at night, or whatever we had to do. And then we toured really hard on birthing for like 2 years, or close to it anyway. And then um, we didn't give ourselves very much time to actually write the album. Um, we just like committed to, I think it was like 2 months or a month even maybe, and we're literally in our practice space 12 hours a day. Like it was like show up at noon, and we're allowed to be there till midnight, so we should stay till midnight.
Right. And
And it was like, I remember we were we all went to this festival, like we went to this outdoor festival, and Tegan and Sarah was playing, and the Bad Brains. And it was, so we went to this festival in Toronto and watched Tegan and Sarah, and then there was someone else, and then Bad Brains, and I was like, I gotta stay and watch the Bad Brains for sure. I want to watch the Bad Brains play.
yeah,
And Liam and Scott were like, we saw Tegan and Sarah, like we're gonna go. So they went and started jamming ahead of me, and I watched the Bad Brains and then showed up later, like drunk or something, and and then we wrote that song "Pray for Darkness." That they had already started writing it, and we like finished "Pray for Darkness" that night.
yeah, it's
I
another
was all
great
pumped,
song.
drunk, and amped on super fast Bad Brain songs, and
Yeah,
yeah, so they were. But yeah, it was. I don't ever remember feeling the pressure. I remember uh feeling the pressure more on the following record, on
yeah,
Bears.
which we'll get to into in just a
Um,
sec.
with birthing, we were still very just like doing it ourselves. We didn't have management or anything like that yet. So it's just like, we were just playing songs to friends, and people were excited about it, and so we were excited about it.
Yeah, yeah, and musically, I feel like it's mostly a mainly riff-driven album, but it also sounds different. Like a song like "Regret" is different from a song like "Lucifer's Rocking Chair," and different than "Let It Pour,"
Yeah,
and then "Pray for
yeah,
Darkness."
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think the those like different yeah, like I mean, Scott was definitely the riff. He really loves the he was the metalhead. I mean, we're all metalheads, but he was like his sole influence, I think, was metal and industrial and stuff like that, where like I come from a pretty heavy punk background, is where I got into music and stuff, or I got into the scene, where Scott, I think, entered from the more metal side of it.
yeah, and I'm
Um,
pretty sure like everybody brings like a
and
different
and so
influence.
yeah, yeah, and I think you can kind of hear that a lot on that album.
Yeah, And I love how
for
you even
sure.
had more guest appearances. Like I know you got Tim from Rise Against, which I thought was great. How'd you get Tim to do a guest vocals on Harem of Scorpions?
We had toured with Rise Against right before we went in to make that album. We did like we did like 6 weeks in Europe with them. It was Rise Against in the Bronx and Cancer Bats.
Oh, wow.
So we were tight. We're homies,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I know
And
that.
it was awesome that he did it with for us. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know next year is going to be the 15-year anniversary of Hail Destroyer. Is there a chance maybe we can get a celebration of this album? Maybe do a tour you play it start to finish?
well, we did it. We did a bunch of 10-year Hail Destroyer shows. So I doubt we'll do 15 years.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right.
but maybe 20.
Yeah. Yeah, which will be a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
kind of
Sorry. Maybe we'll have to come down and do some in the States.
yeah, yeah, hope
We'll do
so.
the 10-year of Hail down in the States or the 15. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of moving on to the next album, Bears, Mayors, Scraps and
Yeah.
Bones. What was that like going from Hail Destroyer
Yeah.
to this?
Um, well, I think Hale kind of pushed us to another level, and we got, we started working with management who are based in England. And we had a management company based in England and one in the States. We were working with two different companies. So there's just more cooks in the kitchen, I guess. You
Yeah.
know, more people kind of uh putting the pressure on us, you know. um I do remember uh that pressure, feeling that pressure. And we were given a bit more time, but and the pressure was coming from, like, we felt it, and we worked with the same production team as we did on Hail Destroyer. um and so I think they even felt it too, and we worked really, really hard on that, on Bears. We did a lot of pre-production. Um, and again, I mean, it was the same. We gave ourselves a little bit more time, I think, to write the album. But again, it was the same sort of in the jam space, 12 hours a day, 10, 12 hours a day, like just grinding to make sure that you know we were doing it right.
Right.
um, and making sure that the songs were the best. So, but yeah, I think overall, that album, um, I don't know. Sometimes I think we feel that, like, we over nitpicked. We overproduced that album maybe a little bit, and we should have let it be a little bit more. I don't know, a little bit more organic, maybe. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and apparently the album
but it's a
title
cool
was
album. Lots of people really like it.
yeah, and apparently the album title comes from like the four words is like you all's like nicknames.
Yeah, yeah. So um, Jay Jay joined the band right before we recorded Hail Destroyer, where he did his first tour. His first tour was the last tour we did for Hail Destroyer, or sorry, for Birthing the Giant. Um, and then we did that. We went to Europe with Comeback Kid and Parkway Drive, and then we went to Australia, and then straight from Europe we went to Australia. So we took Jay on all of that, and then we went straight into the studio. Um, but we recorded Hail Destroyer as, like, just the three of us. Scott played all the bass. Um, and then we toured all of Hail for whatever 2 years with Jay, and then so by the time we got to start making Bears. It was like Jay was a member of the band, and so we were trying to come up with an album. And if I remember correctly, Liam actually had a dream. Uh, he had a dream on for two of those, two things on Bears. But I'm pretty sure he woke up and told me that he had a dream that the album was called Bears, Mares, Scraps, and Bones. And then and and it was great. I mean, we were just like, oh, that's a cool. It sounds cool, and yeah, that they are all our nicknames. Um, I'm the Bear
Yeah. How'd you come
because
up with that? How'd you get that
and
nickname?
we had a tour manager um in England for a really long time, a really good friend of ours and he would call me the Bear. Like he always called me the Bear from like day one of meeting him, basically.
Oh wow.
And so to Stan, I was the Bear, and then Scott is the mayor, because we call him the Scobe, and he lives in Scope City, and he's the mayor of Scope City. It's just a really like inside stupid joke, basically. um, yeah, and then Jay, we call Jay Bone Malone for whatever reason. No, like that's just Liam. Liam will give nicknames to everyone, like that's his. I think in sometimes like a sign of affection, you know. So I don't know where or when it started happening, but J Bone Malone got said once and it stuck, and then forever he's been J Bone Malone. Uh, so he was Bones, and then Liam, um, uh, he would like when we were making Birthing the Giant and Hail Destroyer, um, we didn't have any money. We were broke. We were spending all our time in this practice studio. So it was just like we were all just broke, and we'd go to this restaurant called Sneaky D's. We'd go out to eat with friends, and Liam would just get a coffee, and then he would just wait till everyone was done eating, and then he'd be like, "Can I finish your food over there, or can I finish this, or can I, and he'd eat everyone's scraps, and then our friend was like, oh, Scrappy, eh? And just that name just stuck, and he became Scrappy. So he's Scraps, Bears,
Yeah.
Mares, Scraps, and Bones. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also love how you also covered.
Um.
Yeah. Sorry, you're saying.
Oh, I was gonna say you were gonna bring up Sabotage, but
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. So Liam had a dream about that name, and he also dreamt that we covered Sabotage. Before we made the album, we were playing a festival um, near Buffalo in St. Catharines in Canada, um, and we were like a week or two out from playing this festival, um, and he was like called me in the morning, and he was like, "Man, I just had a dream that we covered Sabotage at Scene Fest," and Keith from Every Time I Die was like could not believe it. Like his mind was blown. He was in the and Every Time I Die we're already planned, like they were headlining the stage that we were playing at the festival. Um so it made sense that Keith would be there and have his mind blown. But yeah, Liam had this dream, and he was like, it was so sick. Like, we should cover Sabotage. I was like, okay. So we learned it that day or whatever, played it, practiced it, played it at the festival. And then I think we played it at, we were never planning. We were just planning to play it a couple times, for fun. And then we played a festival before we made the album, we played a festival in the UK, and our management team was like, "That's the best. You have to record that song. Like it has to go on the album." We're like, "Oh, okay, sure." Um, so yeah, so and it paid off.
Right.
It's a good cover. We still play it. It's still super fun. People love it. So
All right. And moving on to Dead Set of Living, pretty good album. I feel like this album has a bit more
yeah.
of an upbeat kind of vibe to compare to Bears. Tell me about like the thought process
Mhm.
making this album.
Um, up to well, yeah. Making that album was cool. We were busy. Like we took more time. We had a bit more money because we had been touring a lot more. So we definitely like um yeah, it definitely took more time, and um we made it all like kind of in the summer, which maybe is why we moved to a different practice space. It was is just a little bit, I mean, it's still part of Toronto technically, but it's not in the downtown core. Um, and so we would like I would ride my bike like a half an hour along the lake in Toronto to get out to the practice space, like half hour each way. And we all did it. We all lived close. We would just cycle out. It was the summer. We were like trying to stay in shape, and you know, uh I mean everyone bikes in Toronto because it's kind of, having a car there is really annoying, and if you don't need it, why bother? So, we would cycle down to Lakeshore, like down to it's in a city called Etobicoke. We'd bike out to Etobicoke, stay there all day, and then bike home. Um, but we were starting to, have partners in our lives, and get apartments and all those kind of things. So we were like, um, yeah, I guess maybe had a bit more, and maybe we're a little bit more I don't know, content being at home, happier being at home, where like in the past we were just like um dying to be on the road. Um I think by the time we were starting to make Dead Set on Living, um yeah, we were just happier being at home. And then a really good friend of ours, Maddie, um who's like a he's like a celebrity chef now, Maddie Matheson. I don't know if you know that dude, but
Yeah,
he's on the
is on the title
YouTubes and all
track.
over the world. Yeah, yeah, exactly. He sings on it. So that he had a heart attack while we were making this album.
Oh shit.
And yeah, like at like and we weren't even 30 yet. He was 29. And um that was really heavy. Um so and and so I know like Liam, we spent a lot of time going to visit Maddie at the hospital, you know, and at home and stuff like that. And I know Liam wrote a lot of that, like that song "Dead Set on Living." He definitely wrote that, like sitting in front of the hospital where Maddie was. Um, and "Dead Set on Living" was like Maddie wanted to. He's a chef. He wanted to open up a bar, a restaurant called Dead Set on Destruction originally,
Huh.
and then he had a heart attack, and he was like, no, no, I want to live, I don't want to die. Die. Heart attacks suck, being in the hospital sucks, like I want to live. um and so it kind of um uh I think that event really dictated how the lyrically how the album went,
Yeah.
especially. And then at this and while we were making that record, Scott's mom passed away, um, which was really hard on him. She had been battling cancer for a while, um, so it wasn't like super sudden or anything, but still, you lose your mom, that sucks.
Yeah.
Um, And so Scott, he he obviously had to like spend a lot of time trying to figure out that and be with his mom and all those things. So um he was there for a lot of the writing, but he definitely was also like, had to take his time to do stuff. So some of the songs, or some of the songs were definitely written just the three of us. um but that's kind of always how it went. I mean, Scott was involved in all the songs for sure. um but yeah, there's definitely, there was some big deal life things that happened, I think, that hadn't really happened to any of us in the band prior. So I think those things really kind of dictated, um yeah, the kind of the way it went, basically.
Yeah, and I know that this year was
and
also
then
the
and then
10 year
also,
of
I think,
this.
yeah, it was. We
Yeah,
should probably do something for
maybe do a thing where
that.
you
We're too
play it
busy,
start to
too
finish.
busy.
Or you just got
Yeah, yeah,
well, you already have a new album out, so maybe do like maybe do some deep cuts from this.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I also love how you
we'll see.
got on the song "Bastards." You got Dez from Devil Driver. How'd you hook up with him on this?
Yeah, we had toured with Devil Driver. Um, we toured with Devil Driver twice. We did I guess we did a full Canadian tour with Devil Driver. That was really sweet. And then we did a tour with Guar and Devil Driver. But I think the Guar and Devil Driver tour was in 2012, if I remember correctly, when that album came out. Um, but yeah, he Dez heard Cancer Bats and really liked it, and was just kind of like, hit us up and was like, "Hey man, like, you guys are awesome. Like, let's tour together." And we were like, "Fucking hey, let's do it. That'd be awesome." And it was great touring with them. They were fun, you know. Um, yeah, we did a lot of shows with Devil Driver, and then yeah, just asked him to be on the record, and he was down. So it's cool,
Yeah, and moving on to the next album, "Searching for
and he
Zero."
did a great job.
Yeah, moving on to "Searching for Zero."
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good album, and he actually got Ross Robinson producing that. How'd you hook up with Ross? Because I know around that he also produced a lot of like the new metal bands like Korn, Slipknot, Limp Bizkit, and he also, I think, he worked with Sepultura and many others.
Oh yeah, he made Roots, man. He made Roots.
Yeah, good album.
um, uh, Fucking the best. Yeah, and he made Roots. He and like I don't think any of us in the band are all that into the new metal stuff. Like, I mean, we love Slipknot. Slipknot's fucking awesome. Korn, it was never really my thing. I think I was too into hardcore when it really started popping. Um, and and then yeah, I just never really got into it. Slipknot, was just fucking. I mean, Korn's heavy, but Slipknot was next level.
Yeah,
Um, but he also made At the Drive-In's Relationship a Command, which was a big influence, I think, on us, on everybody in the band. Um, so that was like, there's a lot of really cool albums that Ross has made, with genre spanning stuff, um, and with that album we went from, we were on small independent labels, um, and we signed to BMG, which was technically a major label. Um, and they had BMG was like a distribution company and publishing company, and they wanted to start a record label side of it. And they had major label money. They had lots of money, and they wanted bands that were fairly independent. So they signed us, they signed um, Dillinger Escape Plan, and a few other bands. And they were basically like, here's a bunch of money, you know, make a record, and like you kind of dictate how it was going to go. And we were like, sweet. So they gave us a bunch of money. And they said, but their thing was, you can have this money, but we want you to work with a producer who has a real reputation. And it was like, okay, cool. So we talked to a bunch of different people, or we didn't even really talk to that many different people. We had a lot of people on the list of producers, and the label, like BMG, really liked the idea of Ross. And we'd heard all the legendary Ross Robinson stories of him throwing plants at Joey from Slipknot and shit like that to like piss him off, and
Yeah.
whatever. Um, um, and so, um, I don't know. I think we kind of like liked the idea of kind of throwing something different at the wall, and like I don't know. Done we've done 4 albums with Eric Ratz. Either like he engineered the first one, and then he helped produce the other 3. So we'd always been working with the same people, um, and and so we just wanted to like do something completely different. Um, and so we got to go down to California. We'd always also recorded in Toronto. So going and spending uh, time in California was really cool. One thing we definitely didn't realize Ross's process on how he made albums. Um, and it's like his studio. So we were like, oh yeah, we make an album in like 3 weeks to a month, and then another week of mixing. Like that's kind of we've always done it that way. And then we went down to California, and it was like usually we have you know a few different people working on the tracks, editing and making sure everything's lining up properly, and just to like facilitate the whole process, and then we got down there, and it was like Ross was the only guy there, and he was doing it all, and we were like living in his house, and the studio was in the basement, um,
Wow.
which was which was it was awesome. It was a total vibe, but thinking about it now, we even at the time Liam ended up staying an extra week to do vocals because we had to like push his flight back because we just kind of ran out of time. We didn't really like, I guess, communicate properly to like understand the scope of or his work uh flow, and how we wanted to do things and what it would entail. um so I do kind of wish we had maybe doubled the time we were down there. Like I think if we had to spend 6 weeks down there, uh, we could have. I think the record's great. I think it's awesome. We spent a lot of time on the songs, um, but we did change the songs a lot in the studio, um, and and I think that Ross's approach, like because he's very like he wouldn't let us play to a click track, um, even though we had been practicing to the click. Like he was like, no, it has to be natural. Everything has to be just you guys playing. I don't want a computer telling you that you're on time. Like I want you to play the song the way you're playing it. Um, and I think that really threw Scott, his he he found it difficult to kind of navigate that sort of process. And so um, yeah, so I mean, if we had a bit more time, I think maybe I don't know. I'm happy with it. I like the record. I think it's cool. It was one of those records where we finished it, and I came home, and I listened to it over and over and over again because I'd been listening to demos for so long, but the songs had changed so much from the demo to the album, um, that it was like listening to something totally different, you know? Um, so I really liked it. It was great. Um, Commercially, I feel like it was people didn't understand it or didn't get it behind it. It was a little maybe too raw, a little too punk maybe or something, but um yeah. It was still, I mean, it was still okay, but we definitely uh um got on to making another record pretty soon after and took a pretty big break after that album.
Yeah, because I noticed like
Um
between Dead Set on Living and Searching for Zero, there was like a 3 year, because usually between the first album till Dead Set there was like two years you were just consistent. And then I think between the Dead Set on Living and Searching for Zero, you took like 3 years. Did you just really wanted to like take time to like hone in your craft, so to speak?
well, no, it was partially that so we took a pretty good chunk of time to write the song, and then and then and then we started writing the songs, and we started talking about who would want to produce it, and then um by the time we were in that conversation with Ross, and then the way his schedule is landing, pushed when we wanted to record the album back a bit, so then that pushed it further, and then we finished the album, and um and then the label was like, we don't want to release it till, we were hoping to release it in January of 2015 or whenever it came out. And then it didn't, I don't think it came out till like March or April. They kept pushing it, pushing the release. Like, we don't, not really ready. And then basically, we put out the record. We started touring. We started doing like some of the biggest shows we'd ever done as like a headliner. Um, and then it was like, we'd email the label people and get out of office response or just no response. And then it was like, yeah, they were just, the whole label basically just crumbled.
Shit.
And we just got like no support from them. Um, and I mean, they didn't really know what they wanted to do, but we still needed them to sign off on things, and we were trying to do things, and they just weren't there. And then eventually, we toured that record, and then we finished touring the record, and we started planning for the next one, and we had to call them and be like, what, like, technically we have a contract with you, but you haven't done anything, so can we not have a contract with you anymore? And I don't think they ever responded. So we took that as a sign of, we're out of this contract and we can move on with our lives. But
Kind of moving on to the next album, The Spark That Moves. Pretty good album. Apparently, you like it was like a surprise release. Like it just dropped up out of nowhere. It's like surprise new album.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's when we were doing the um 10 year of Hail Destroyer. So we had kind of, we had obviously been working on it very hard. We finished working on Searching and touring it, and we took a big break. We took like 8 months away from each other, basically. Um, and uh, um, it was a needed break. We just did other things, and Jay and I recorded like an indie rock record with a friend of ours, a couple friends of ours called It's a band called Julie and the Wrong Guys. Um, and we did, Liam did that Axe. No, he did Axe Win before that. Anyway, what doesn't matter. But yeah, we took a big break, and then we got together and made the Spark That Moves. And we decided to just put it out ourselves and started our own record label, Fat Skull Records. And then uh yeah, we were doing the Hale 10-year shows. We were planning those. And we had like, I think there was like 10 or 15 shows kind of around the world. Um and so we decided to release the album as a surprise at that time. I remember we were talking to this producer, and I was telling him about our idea about doing the surprise album. And he was like, "Why would you do that? Like, you're risking all these record sales." I was like, "Yeah, I know, but like, I think we need to do something different. We just wanted to do something that would actually like cause people to talk about it, and it worked. You
Yeah.
know, um, people were people were super pumped. People were super pumped to wake up in the morning and look at their Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, and there was a whole new Cancer Bats album. There wasn't just one song that we'd been teasing for a week already and all that kind of shit that people have to do nowadays to just get to move the needle. It was like people were just super stoked to wake up and there was a whole album in their Spotify, and they were just like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!" And like, we got so many messages. Like, I woke up so pumped. I just listened to your whole record on my way to work or whatever. And like those reviews were just coming in. Like it definitely was a really good, I don't know, business decision, I guess, on our end to do that. I think um, and it worked out even like to the point where um Chris #2 from Anti Flag like was like, "This is awesome." It called Liam and was just like, "Hey, like, I just got your new record. Like, this is so sick." He's like, "We're planning a tour right now with Silverstein in Europe. It's gonna be big. Like, do you want to do the tour?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, wicked. Okay." Like, we just put out a record and all of a sudden we didn't have to even like submit for the tour or anything like that. It was just kind of uh yeah, I think it worked really well. Um, but I mean, I don't think you can do that every album. So
Yeah. It's just like once in the blue moon kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, you do it once and then it was cool.
Yeah.
And it worked really well because we already had, we had two shows in Toronto, two sold out shows in Toronto, and the first show was the day it came out. So we had LPs ready, we had all the new merch ready, so people came. It was the Hale 10-year. They were able to buy the reissue of Hale and the new album. So it did really well. Um, and then we toured that record for a couple of years, um, pretty hard, and all the touring was great. We had we were managing ourselves, um, uh, our own record label. Um, we were just took we had we had just taken all the control back to the band, and it was really positive and really nice to see that we could do it, and like the tours were happening, the shows were happening, people were buying it. It was great. So it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know you toured for a little bit, and then the pandemic hit, and then during that time, you did like kind of some acoustic versions of some songs on the "You'll Never Break Us" separation sessions. Where did the idea to come
Yeah.
about to like do acoustic versions of some of your songs?
Well, so we had reissued a LP for Birthing. No, sorry, for the 10-year of Bears, Mares, Scraps, and Bones. We that the LP for that album was only ever done through Good Fight Records. And I think they only made like 300 or 500 LPs for that record. So no one ever got the original. Only a very few amount of people got the original pressing of the Bears album. Um, And so we were like, we should reissue, do a new version of Bears. Um, and then we had a bunch of shows booked uh, to promote that, like just around Ontario. Uh, and we were planning to we had a lot of shows. Well, we had a European tour booked with Terror to promote that, to do work on that record and sell that record or whatever. But um, the kind of focus of 2020 was like release the 10-year of Bears, do a bit of touring, and focus on making a new album. And that reissue was coming out in March of 2020. So, uh, as we all know, March of 2020 was the final days of normal life or whatever. Um, so we basically had to cancel all the shows. Like the record came out, that reissue basically came out the same time coronavirus came out, and they really coronavirus really killed us. But um, so everybody was like, "What do we do? What do we do?" And yeah, we did a couple like shitty iPhone acoustic versions of those songs. Like, we did a playthrough. Like I played the drums to Fake Gold, and then I sent it to Jay and Scott, and they put their parts over top of it, and we released that on Instagram, and then we did a couple like acoustic ones where like we just did it in our cars or in our basement or whatever, and like just kind of put them together over Instagram and put them out to the world. And then we were like, this is kind of fun, doing these like acoustic things. Like, why don't we try and figure out doing 5 or 6 songs? Like, we just wanted to keep busy, and and by that point, um, none of us lived in the same city. I would like moved back home to Winnipeg. I was living in Toronto for 10 years and had moved back home. Um, and then Liam had moved out to Halifax. Um, and so Jay and Scott were like the only people close to each other even. Um, so we couldn't even really like get together to do anything. Even in the times when it was like, oh yeah, whatever, find your bubble or something like that. And we couldn't even like be in a bubble together to work on the band, because it was just like we couldn't even get on a plane to get together. Even when we tried, people like the flights were getting canceled and stuff. So we just kind of did everything remotely, and we were like, this is a fun way to like kind of keep our keep our name out there and do something fun and different and whatever, try it out. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. I think it's definitely like, if we had been able to actually sit down and play together in a room, I think it would be a lot better. By the time we did it once as a full band, and we had a bunch of other musicians come in and play with us and stuff.
Yeah.
But we played it all live. It's on YouTube. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it. And I also love the Hail the Acoustic Destroyer featuring my good friend Lindsay Schoolcraft. How'd you hook up with her to do a guest song on that?
Oh yeah, Lindsay is awesome. Lindsay is from just outside of Toronto, and Liam met her when she was playing in Cradle. Um, she was trying to, I think, get her brand bigger and her music up. Um, and Liam did some sort of like artist mentorship program kind of thing where he was like so he was like her mentor for this like Canadian mentorship program for artists or something like that. Um, and they became really good friends doing it. And now, yeah, so and then we were like, we'd always kind of like talked about um maybe having Lindsay play with us or do song or do something. and then it just kind of worked out that that was something that we could do together, and everyone was just kind of looking to do something creative and keep those juices going, right? So it was kind of, we just talked to Lindsay and had her sing, and it was great.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah,
of course, your latest album, Psychic Jailbreak, a pretty good album. Interesting one, since, of course, now Scott had left the band. Band,
yeah.
was that kind of hard knowing what to do next?
Um, no, it was like with Scott, it was kind of a long process of him exiting the band. Um, all our lives had taken us in slightly different directions. But we always had the band, and we always kind of all were pretty dedicated to the band. And then uh so over the time of the pandemic, I think like we couldn't get together. Um and we did take a we did those acoustic things, uh but overall we took a pretty big break. We didn't talk to each other all the time, and we weren't all working on music all the time. um and then when we did start getting back and started writing the songs for Psychic Jailbreak, um Scott was kind of like not contributing. um and it was like, we had conversations and we talk, and like, what's going on, what's the deal. And he always kind of seemed like, oh, he just needed to, he was he had ideas and he wanted to do it, and he wanted to do it, but then nothing would ever come. And then eventually we just kind of had to be like, what, like, you're not contributing, you're not being a part of this band right now, you're not helping write the songs, you're not um really involved. Like, do you want to be here? Because if you don't want to be here, like, you don't have to be here. It's not this isn't the Scott Middleton band. It's a collective of four people that are working together, and three of us are hungry to do it again. And if you're not, then that's okay. You have to understand that three of us want to do it, and you're either in or you're out, kind of thing. And he made the decision to step down, which I mean, I can understand. It's hard. Your identity's been wrapped up in cancer bats for 15 years or more. So stepping down from that is really tough. But it was his decision in the end, and we're all still friends. And you know I think he's a lot happier where he is now. Um, he's got a studio. He's making records for bands. So
Yeah, and of course on this album, I know
yeah,
Jay has actually played guitar on that. That did
yeah,
that does that sort of like bring sort of like a new kind of like vibe to the to Cancer Bats?
yeah. I think so. He. I mean, Jay's just a machine. Like, he is a workhorse machine. He will he will make sure that he puts in the work to make sure that things are right and perfect. And he's got a vision. And he put in a lot of work into making Psychic Jailbreak. Um, you know, we all put in a lot of work, but Jay really like stepped up and made sure that there were songs and riffs, and especially because most of it was written remotely. Like, we only were able to get together twice. We got together once for a week and jammed in Toronto, and then we got together for a week in Winnipeg, and then like we had a week, and then we went straight into the studio for 3 weeks or whatever. So it was like we didn't really get that much time together to work out the songs properly together in the room. So we all put in a lot of work, but I think Jay really stepped up and put in a lot of work into making that record.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I especially love
yeah.
all the songs
So
on there, especially like Friday night. Night and then Radiate, and even
Yeah.
the title track alone is just a really great way to end the album with a bang.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really happy with all the songs. I do in a way like I was like personally I feel like I was the most distracted making the album just because I have two kids, two little kids that needed attention and we were in Winnipeg where I live recording the album. So a lot of the time I was I don't know, putting out fires at home and whatever. So um there's part of me that wishes we had a been able to spend a little bit more time. But overall, I really love the record, you know,
Yeah,
and I'm happy, and it's been doing well. People seem to be really into it. So
yeah, yeah, and kind of in the end, to kind of wrap things up. What's next for Cancer Bats? Have you all got like any new tours lined up? What's next for Cancer Bats?
right now we are just kind of waiting till summer to start doing some summer festivals. Um, yeah, we had a pretty strong 2022. We did a lot of touring. Um, and so now I think we're all just going to take some time to be at home with our families and friends and whatever, and then and kind of like just work on the band. Maybe now we have Jay, or Jay's still playing bass, and we brought in Stephen Harrison to play guitar and Katie Lamont. So we added two guitar players, which was really
Oh,
cool.
make it more
Um,
heavier and fuller.
exactly, yeah. Um, and uh, and um, I mean we did it because we knew that because Steven plays in he did play in Fever 333. And so we knew that he was going to be busy at times. So we brought in we brought in Katie to kind of fill it out. And then we had them playing together and we were like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like we should really just do this as a 5 piece.
Yeah.
Um,
So will they be official
but
members
you
or
know,
just playing live?
we haven't really like talked about yeah, we right now they're just like live members, but I would really like to start trying to write some new songs with them. It's been really fun and really like a breath of new life into the band, having them around and having them play with us. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to um, try and write some stuff and get back to playing shows. Like we're gonna be yeah, we don't right now we don't have anything planned for the first half of 2023. But we're filling in uh summer festivals right now. So we're just kind of looking to we're just focusing on filling up that summer and then into the fall of 2023. So we'll have a few months. Maybe we'll write some new tunes. And
Yeah. That's awesome. And anyway,
yeah,
just really thank you for this conversation, Mike. It was great to talk to you for the last hour. Is just anything else you
yeah.
want to say? Any final words to close this out?
No, I think we're gonna try and tour in the States a little bit more. I know you're from down south or Kentucky or something. So
It's Georgia.
hopefully, oh, you're from Georgia. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Steven's from Georgia too. So he's from Atlanta.
Oh,
Um,
nice. I live like
so yeah,
north
we're
of
we
Atlanta.
just did our first. We just oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so we just did our first U.S. tour in 6 years. Uh, about last month. Um, and yeah, I think we're gonna keep trying to get spend a bit more time down in the States, which would be cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see everybody out there.
Awesome. So everybody, Michael from Cancer Bats, we'll see you next time.